This video is brought to you by my new novel, Maynard Trigg. Head to maynardtrigg.com and use code BLOG10 at checkout for 10% off the paperback. That's code BLOG10 at checkout for 10% off the paperback. So I have this pet peeve that exclusively exists in the online writers community. And by writing community, I'm talking almost exclusively about amateur hobbyists and fiction writers. And it's this really unfair gripe that I can't seem to get away from, but it's been keeping me up at night, so I needed to write about it and make a video to get it out of my head. So here we go. I saw this tweet one morning, which reads, "When writers share the playlists for their characters, good shit." Fairly innocuous by itself, but it sent a shiver down my spine. Somewhere buried in my subconscious, I felt a reflexive drowning sensation, an urge to run, to get the hell away. To understand where this comes from, we have to go all the way back to 2007. David Karp and Marco Arment decided to fill a gap in the short blogging market. Karp noticed that no established blogging platforms were particularly interested in Tumblr blogging, so he made his own platform. As a result, Tumblr launched in February 2007 and was an overnight success, reaching 75,000 users within 2 weeks. The thing that made Tumblr unique is that while a user's content was populated on their unique blog URL, their content was also delivered directly to fellow bloggers via a dashboard. The dashboard effectively was an aggregate RSS feed and acted like a waterfall timeline of posted content of the people you followed. It was like Twitter, but for longer stuff. This combination of the dashboard and a mature tag and search function allowed users to quickly propagate their dashboard with blog content from niche communities, their friends in real life, and people they'd met online. It didn't take too long before hundreds of highly specialized groups cropped up. From fanfiction to original content to entire comic books, businesses, web series, and more, there wasn't much you couldn't find a life and community of like-minded people for on Tumblr. It was the live journal of the next generation. But by 2010, it was effectively becoming a Voltron of content, with each sub-community gathering enough momentum to affect the real world. Slick features like dedicated image hosting and the ability to follow tags, something Twitter only recently adopted in 2019, catapulted Tumblr's ability to create these insular echo chambers of people that were into the same kind of content. Because of the breadth and depth of these communities, it was fairly easy for things to spiral out of control completely unchecked. Communities could rise with thousands of dedicated followers with basically no checks or balances to what they could and could not do. The lack of central guidelines meant communities would develop their own. Very often this resulted in heavy gatekeeping or just downright weird requirements to join. To this end, unregulated use of copyrighted material formed the crux of many spaces. Fan art, video, and fan fiction, with some blogs being entirely dedicated to aggregating content rather than publishing it themselves. During the course of writing this video, I reached out to a handful of moderators, admin, and various blogs. Most popular pages are now defunct, and the most I was able to gather was a comment from a user who asked to remain anonymous. They simply said, and I quote, "Tumblr ended, and I think that's for the best." So I reached out to a friend of mine, Maddie, who was a big user back in the day. I wanted to understand what drew people to the platform and what held them there. So what I wanted to start with was this video is about Tumblr and like the sub-communities that kind of exist there that aren't able to exist anywhere. Can you tell me a bit about like how you first discovered Tumblr, if you remember that, and like how you got into it?
I think I was looking for Doctor Who. It would have been when I was like 14 or 15, and really into the David Tennant Doctor Who. And it was just sort of looking for more information in that community, and then sort of found the Super Who lock and immediately took a right turn out.
So like the Super Who lock thing, can you explain that a tiny bit?
Right, so that's a three-way fandom Venn diagram marriage of Supernatural, Sherlock, as done by, oh god, what does your editor call him? The narrative terrorist?
Yeah, the narrative terrorist, Stephen Moffat. Yes, correct.
Yeah, and the most recent incarnation of Doctor Who, restarted, what was it? Do that?
Yeah, it was Matt Smith's Doctor, wasn't it? Could you try and like, it's hard to articulate, but what would you describe it as? Like, was it a community? Was it like a, like what's the language?
It was somewhere that it was somewhere that teenage girls could express their horniness or what they couldn't immediately identify as horniness to a group of other people who not only shared that love, but then fed off it. And it's sort of a game of one-up that leads into this mass hysteria that, you know, you previously only saw in Beatles concerts where one girl would wet herself and then the rest of them had to be as big a fan of the thing as she was, so they would then wet them. It's this triggering mass hysteria. It's sort of like this gatekeeping but also sharing thing. You know, casual is the enemy and everyone has to be the, you know, where the fandom becomes the life or becomes what are you? I'm a Doctor Who fan. No, I mean...
Yeah, but which particular flavor? I like the phrase casual is the enemy, because that was definitely... The more I've been researching into this stuff, the more that keeps becoming the crux of a lot of these communities, is like there is this gatekeeping that exists where it's like if you're not a big enough fan, then you shouldn't be allowed to participate at all. Seems to be the general attitude.
And I think what finally got me off Tumblr was that no one wanted to reach a fever pitch for David Bowie. So I was out here posting David Bowie OC and no one was listening or responding.
Amazing. So it was just you.
Oh man, it was just me like debating with myself about the Merrick versus Ziggy versus Aladdin and which one had more artistic merit. That's
not sad at all. That's totally normal and fine. That's a normal thing.
Shut up. You asked me to be here.
Well, that's what I'm interested in, though, is like it... Do you think, and this is a broad statement, so don't feel like you're speaking for everyone, but do you feel like that kind of, those communities, like, were they healthy in your experience?
I don't... Definitely community by community. The Harry Potter one's a big one, where there's the toxic side of it and the healthy side of it, and, you know, it's just, expressing I love Hagrid so much, and then it's like, JKR is a TERF! And it's like, oh my god, calm the fuck down. Like, it doesn't really matter what she says about the universe, you don't have to listen to it. You know, oh my god, 7 books are canon, and you can ignore everything else. Like,
if it's not in the book, it doesn't count, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, just because JKR is screaming into the void doesn't mean you need to scream back. So the reason that I think people get down these rabbit holes and find it very difficult to let go of them or get out of them is because, like, we all know that high school friendships are friendships of, it's like, these are the people close to me I hate the least, therefore I'm going to spend time with them.
Friendships of frequency.
You end up enjoying their media and their things. Like, I didn't particularly like Fall Out Boy, but I ended up going to Fall Out Boy concerts because my friends were like free. And then I had this one friend who was super into Doctor Who, so like, what do you do on the weekend? You share interests, so I got into Doctor Who. And then it just becomes this safe place because it's people there that are like, and that's pretty tough to find in high school because you don't even know what you're like.
Right. But it's like something you can really latch onto and really... You were saying before, like you really bury yourself in it, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, no one's got a personality at 15, so it gives you something to sort of an archetype personality to build up.
And is that so? Like when you come out of that, I guess, like looking back at it now, the thing that I'm investigating with this video is trying to understand. A big part of the community was about. So it was interesting you mentioned the super hula because you kind of know the context of the video I'm working on, but. A big part of what I'm trying to understand is in these communities that have this gatekeeping that exists, that have this barrier to entry where it's like if you're not the most ultimate version of this fan, then you don't even count. Like unless you know every episode of the show off by heart and you remember what happened to Buffy in season 3 episode 12, then you're not a real fan, you're a fake fan. But when you get in enough and then you're on the other side of the gate, it is a safe place. Tumblr is in the media, at least, Tumblr is portrayed as this toxic kind of echo chamber where these people gather together and they're radicalized by that proximity and by that gatekeeping. So things can spiral out of control pretty quickly, and it can lead to, like, there's been a few real life incidents where Tumblr communities have gone out and done things in the real world that have been quite harmful because they've been in that echo chamber and it's been a safe space. When you came out of that, did you get the sense?
It's definitely not that. I was never in that because I'm a pretty lazy person, and when I come across a community that doesn't want me there, then I don't particularly feel the need to pursue it. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and TumblrCon was a very good one to look at. Fucking toxic some of these communities can be when you get all together. But like, I guess you could very easily equate it to a like a 4chan or what's the 7?
Yeah, there's different chans. I don't know though. I'm not very internet. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the 4chan got shut down, and because they created another one that had even less censorship, and that's where you get the alt-right and the Proud Boys. Like the New Zealand shooter was on there quite a lot. And so if we talk about shutting down these communities that are radicalizing the alt-right, then we should be talking about these communities that are radicalizing the alt-left as well.
Exactly.
Keep going back to it and back to it isn't even the community aspect of it. It's the incredibly specific, relatable content. Like, there's this one post that just goes, "The water that flows down my arms and off my elbows and makes a mess when I'm washing my face. Fight me." And you don't get that on Twitter or Facebook. Yeah. You only get that there. Or that post I shared with you the other day about the Eldritch Coffee ladies.
I love that one. It's really good.
Or like people sharing their high school orchestra stories where it's like there were 4 Fs above the tuba parts, so we played the fuck out of our tubas, and then it's like, things heating up in the orchestra fandom.
I love it.
And the reason I keep going back is because, like, science side of Tumblr or historical side of Tumblr, if someone just posts a random question like, God, I can't even think of an example. Scientists discover a 7-foot-tall female mummy with an obsidian glass eye in Egypt, and everyone's like, "Yep, okay, that was Ra. They found Ra."
Yeah, amazing. I like that. So
I keep coming back to that kind of content. I don't know if I was ever the obsessive fandom kid that you're looking for. I was for music, but music isn't as big on Tumblr as film, television, photography, and especially like DeviantArt stuff and anime. So, like, when Kings of Leon's 3rd album came out and everyone started singing Sex on Fire, I was furious. Like, I was throwing fists. Like, you don't get to listen to the Kings of Leon. You didn't put in the hard yards. I was line wiring fucking Youth and Young Manhood 2 years ago. This isn't for you. You don't deserve it.
You haven't earned it.
No.
There's definitely that is a sentiment that everyone else I've spoken to has expressed at some point with something where they're like, you weren't in the trenches. You didn't know them when they were playing in a tavern with 10 people in Scotland. You fake fan.
Yeah, I was that for Courtney Barnett. I used a fake ID to sneak in and see Kaiser Chiefs, and then next summer everyone's singing Ruby, Ruby, Ruby. I'm like, no, mine. It's mine.
It attracts a certain naive, I'm trying not to be patronizing. It attracts like a certain naive nihilism where it's like you haven't grown to a point yet where you're able to accept that the sadness you feel as a teenager, it's just like not a mature thing. Like it's okay to feel that way, but at some point you need to grow out of it and like grow into like, because as a part of this experiment, I've been going back through my own blog and wanting to die of how cringy it is. But that's a part of the space. Like, you can go on there and you can do, like, I was doing things, I didn't realize this till now, but I was famous in my high school. People were reading my blog because I was blogging about my life in high school and stuff like that. And it was a process of very self-indulgent, self-flagellation, of not owning your own activity. And that was really like, that was a thing that I look back at and I'm like, wow, that kid sucked. But you don't know that at the time.
No, God, no. But you have to go through those phases to get here. Like, what's the saying? If you're not embarrassed by the person you were 5 years ago, then you're not growing. Like,
exactly.
When you're 60, you should be embarrassed of 55-year-old you.
Absolutely. But the trick is growing out of it. And I think the problem with not the problem with, but the thing I'm trying to ascertain from this whole experiment is whether or not Tumblr still existing remains something that is going to help people grow and move on and find those new avenues of expressing themselves and becoming becoming the person they're going to become for now, and then become the next person the next time they change, because we're always changing every day. That's the whole point. That's the good work that we do as adults and we do as people. I guess Tumblr represents for me this bastion of like a time and a place that people speak about in such a... When I was asking other people who asked to remain anonymous, they talked about it with this like kind of sadness, like it was like a family member had died. They're like, yeah, I don't use Tumblr anymore, but man, what a time. It was like an ex that you knew was bad for you, like, but what a time it was, sort of thing.
It's like that bar, that uni student bar that exists in every town. For us, well, for me at least, it was Rick's, where you go there like every single weekend and like Thursdays because they got cheap drinks every single week for like 3 years, and then all of a sudden you look around and you realize that you're a couple of years older than everyone around you, and suddenly you go like, oh, Rick's has changed, but it hasn't. You've changed. Don't get too into it, and for every community that's going to gatekeep the shit out of you, call them out on it. Like, if you're being gate-kept, or people are abusing you behind the scenes, or you're getting anonymous sort of messages with any kind of abuse, report them, and then tell the other members of the community that this guy's being a dickhead.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's nothing Tumblr loves more than a catty bitch and taking down a cat.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, all these people want to be supported, and there's going to be a couple of rude people. And just remember to look outside every now and then.
I think that's good advice. Anywhere you are on the internet is call people out on their shit and remember that it is just the internet, and there is a life out there, and there are people that do care about you, and sometimes they do exist just online, and that's okay. Sometimes that's enough, I think. Fanfiction didn't just exist on Tumblr, of course. Websites like Wattpad, fanfiction.net, and Tree Inc. provided a more formal channel for publication. On these sites, users can publish index stories, short stories, and even full-length novels. Amazon took it a step further and launched Kindle.Works, a service where writers can generate content for certain existing properties and sell it on the Kindle store. But these other services lacked the community and the in-group sense of their Tumblr counterparts. Largely, I suspect it's because these other services missed the contextual interactions, the things that aren't just the words themselves. Tumblr fanfiction communities are multimedia, multi-conceptual affairs, whether it's photoshopped GIFs, images, composited videos, or anachronistic posts. The breadth and depth of content dwarfs simply posting a short story or the chapter of a novel. The reblog feature allowed users to create templates that their fellow fanfiction writers could post and fill out. This ranged from things like a list of 20 questions to answer about your favorite original fanfiction character, to posting playlists of music that go along with your character or your fanfiction, or posting your character's favorite songs. This enabled users to express and explore concepts around their fanfiction or regular writing that didn't necessarily require the hard work of writing prose. The result was a flourish of interesting creative work that wasn't exactly writing. Reblogging and engaging in this content was super fun, and it felt a lot like contributing to your writing portfolio and your work as a whole. Surely thinking about songs a main character might love will deepen your ability to write them believably. Surely thinking about their favorite food is a valuable activity because you can work that into your text when you get stuck. And it was a neat trick, reblogging, contributing to your work without doing any actual writing, and receiving a ton of positive feedback as the community reshared your work or sent you likes. But crucially, most people on the platform, like me, weren't actually writing. I fell into this trap myself, becoming further and further involved in certain niche fanfiction writing groups with this general understanding that somehow my involvement would deepen my work, embolden my ability to render well-realized characters. This obviously wasn't the case. Mostly, most of us spent a lot of time doing everything except writing, and anything we did write was based on copyrighted material that we couldn't sell. There was something strangely infantilizing about this cycle, and underlyingly sinister. It wasn't a waste per se, but it was an exercise in group delusion. a collective psychic facade of progress. I'm sure I did learn some lessons about writing during this time, but they're nothing compared to what I've actually learned writing. I don't mean to criticize these types of communities. I was part of one for a long time. But it does have a time and a place in everyone's creative journey, one that's best left behind if you intend to move beyond the hobbyist space. There's a restrictiveness to these practices, a safety in not failing. So, against my best judgment, I decided to revisit that time and place in my life, just briefly. Those of you who follow our content will know that I spent a large part of my teen years writing Pokemon fanfiction, largely as a result of the Tumblr community. It sort of tricked me into pursuing fanfiction as an avenue for creativity. There was a safety to writing satire. These insular communities was a great way to get constant positive feedback, and knowing you could never publish the work meant there was no risk of being rejected. Failure didn't really exist. But what I haven't shared before is that I also wrote some cross-fiction between my favorite TV show at the time and my favorite novel series at the time. Once again, I reached out to Aron, my editor, to reveal yet another skeleton in my closet. You remember how last time when we did a video like this, I revealed this novel that I had?
Yes.
I wanted to... So that
last
was...
time I kind of knew about it, though. Last time I kind of knew about it.
You'd heard rumors,
No.
you'd heard rumblings.
And rumblings, but I fucking no clue what this is about.
It was a full satirical Pokemon noir detective story. And we fucking published it! It was out there for a long time.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so that...
Right, so can you just explain for people that aren't familiar with our dynamic, like what is your relationship to me professionally?
I am David McNeill's editor, and I guess creative consultant.
Yes, I think that in my head your official title is writerly therapist.
Yes,
for me.
is the official title.
Correct. So during this time, I had a pretty rough look. I'm glad that I've moved on. I think I had a Tumblr is the upshot, and a big part of my interaction on that Tumblr was following different groups, and I posted like a lot of graphics and stuff, like a screenshot of graphics and stuff like that of Doctor Who. But there was a point where I came to the weakness. I succumbed to it, and I sat down and I wrote something that I published, and it was a cross fiction between my favorite novels at the time and my favorite TV show at the time.
Okay.
So I wrote a crossfic. Did you want to guess who?
One of them's got to be Doctor Who, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
One of them has got to be Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a stab in the dark and say Smallville.
Ooh, no. So Doctor Who's this was a TV show and a book series.
Okay, the TV show and a book. So Doctor Who's
the TV show is Doctor Who.
Of course, yeah,
It's
yeah,
a novel
yeah.
franchise that I would cross with that.
Franchise. Are they like similar genres we're talking about here?
They're both sort of about someone particularly special, and they're both kind of like adventure, mystery stories. I can give you a hint. You may not know it, but I can give you a hint.
Okay.
It's a series that features the only wizard in the phone book.
Like the Dresden Files?
Yes.
Holy shit.
So I wrote three parts, 3 chapters, if you will, of a Dresden Doctor Who crossfic.
Fantastic.
That I would like to sit and read with you tonight, if that's okay with you. Does that sound quite pathetic to you?
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Hence why you needed the drink. Show us the tin. They don't sponsor us, but we want them to.
Yeah.
A Simisahi beer right there.
But this is Asahi Dry.
It is. So I'm gonna bring it up on my screen. I just want you to tell me if you can read it okay. I don't know how small it's gonna be on your iPhone there.
That's pretty.
Tabs. Is it pretty small?
That's pretty small.
I can make it a bit bigger for you. Hang on.
You may need to read this. Actually.
So it's split into. I've done a Stephen King thing where I've split it into like perspective chunks. So I thought we'd go on and off.
Oh, is the Tumblr you're on.
Yeah. That's where I was.
Already a strong energy
really
permeating from.
powerful energy.
Powerful.
I'm gonna read. Do you want to read the first section? I'll read it because the first section is just prose. I'll read the second section. I'll do the Doctor Who voices, and then you can take section 3.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
I
So
just
you
want to
want me to
clarify. Yeah.
You want me to do section 1, and then
section 1, and then I'll do section 2, then you can do section 3. And you can pause whenever you need to just really let out whatever it is you're feeling. I want to be really clear as well. I think the context of this was that I just finished the Dresden Files book where Harry and Murphy are kind of having like a romantic sort of subplot. And it was in the middle of Doctor Who season 6 where Rory and Amy are traveling with the Doctor. And it's sort of Rory's like the dunce character in the equation. And my goal, I guess, and like I think I achieved it pretty well in hindsight, but maybe you'll be the judge of that. I was trying to capture the voices of all these characters and kind of find a compelling situation where they'd be in an adventure together. What I didn't realize is that I wasn't great at writing at the time, so it's very it's something. Let's just jump.
It's very useful.
It's mate, this whole blog is just yikes. Yeah, I mean, hit us with part 1 when you're ready.
Alrighty. It was a cold night in Chicago. The tall man jogged along, black leather duster billowing out behind him, a stick of wood in one hand and a bag of Skittles in the other. Rather than a beard, he simply looked as if he hadn't shaved in days.
You know how we always talk about like describe what's there, not what isn't there. I had not learned that lesson yet. It's not. It's fine. This is sentence 2. It's fine.
I was doing my best to read it, sir. I'm so sorry. All right.
You got this. It's fine.
Try to get into it, and then that came up.
You just can't. It's fine. It's gonna get worse before it gets better.
The thing with that line, right, is like I know what you're going for, right? But it's just not that.
It's not
like
there.
you just haven't, because like you could just say he hadn't shaved in a few days.
He hadn't shaved in a few days. That's the whole sentence. But it's so hedging. It's like I don't trust the yeah. It's so hedging. It's like I don't want you to think that I didn't know what I meant. So here's an overqualification.
It's like you were going for something else, though. Like, I know what you're going for, which is he hadn't shaved in a few days. But it's like, rather than a beard, he simply looked as if he hadn't shaved in
I
a few
hate
days.
it. Because Jim Butcher
Now
would
he's
have
like
written...
in this, like, beard Twilight Zone. And,
well, you can't
like,
imagine it. Jim Butcher would have written something like, his beard was patchy, as, you know... as if he shaved with a blunt razor 2 days ago. Like he'd be very specific, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not that.
It's just a strange beard period to be in.
It's a beard twilight. Yeah.
I wanna for all of you at home, if you can see where I'm reading, you'll notice that I'm only a third into this paragraph.
The Patreons will get our full read through. They're gonna get the whole shooting match.
Cool. Okay.
So they can experience this with us in real time. I'm just gonna render the whole thing. They're gonna love it.
That's great. For that matter, the man looked as if he hadn't slept for several weeks. He took large strides which propelled him through the night. The rainbow party bag of Skittles, ounce in glaring bubble writing on red packet, rattled around noisily. Okay.
You like that sentence, did you?
Well, I mean, like right, is prose, but in italics.
I don't know why that's italicized. I don't know why it's italicized. But other than that, it's a nice contrast with him. I think the imagery is quite good. This dude in like this big duster with a poorly shaven beard who looks tired running through the night with a big fucking fuck off, bag of Skittles. That's pretty fun.
I've seen people like that at conventions.
Yeah. I think that's the best sentence. Is that the best sentence so far? It might be.
I think like, it was the cold night in Chicago was
That's
the
the
best.
best. I've nailed that. I should have quit. Sentence 1.
He looked pissed off. Man in a black coat, unshaven, messy black hair, a staff of wood and a bag of candy. The only thing weirder was the squeak noise that came from the alleyway ahead of him as something blue materialized. Ooh.
Ooh, what is it?
What
could
is it?
It's a TARDIS for sure, but like, what is it?
What is
What could
it?
it be?
Yeah, this is it's one of those situations where like the very end of that paragraph was all information that was
That
laid
was the
out
whole
in
paragraph. Yeah.
it was the whole paragraph in half
You either
paragraph.
cut the paragraph or you cut the end sentence, one of the two.
Yeah.
But we cut the whole paragraph because it pretty much did all of that.
Hold on a minute. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're right. You hang on. I gotta get these voices, okay? Because I can do Rory Williams. I can do Amy Pond, but how the fuck Doctor Who 11th Doctor? This is just crucial to
He
like.
had like a weird head movement thing going on. Like he gesticulated with his skull a lot.
He did. I really liked it.
I used to get
And you
people
could
to
have
side eye too.
What?
What?
Did you think no one...
Did you think no one was watching? What? Yeah. Okay. All right. Right. So, what do you say to the greatest steak sandwich of all time? The Doctor cried, whirling about his console like a spatially challenged 5-year-old. That's not very sensitive. A spatially challenged 5-year-old. What a dig at 5-year-olds.
Hey.
Cheap drive-by. Sure, Amy responded cheerily, grabbing Rory's arm and dragging him down the stairs to the control room.
We're going for sandwiches.
Oh, yeah. Right, Doctor, I hate to ask, because I'm sure it'll be... this is now Rory sounds.
You got a blanket? It's good. Who gave you that?
One of the fellas.
Which one?
Right, Doctor, I hate to ask, because I'm sure it'll be some weird planet made of cheese or something, but where are we going? Rory asked pointedly, his wife pounding his shoulder with a playful fist before dancing toward the Doctor.
The Doctor!
That is a dialogue attribution and a half. It's got an
It is.
adverb, it's got an action after it.
Pointedly, his
It's got
wife
two actions
pounding
after
his
it.
shoulder with a playful fist before dancing toward the Doctor. It's like they're two separate thoughts that you have separated.
There's
with a
three.
comma.
There's really three. It's Rory said. His wife punched him in the shoulder, and then she went toward the Doctor. It's really three actions, but because I didn't know about, you should just put said after attribution tag, like as the attribution tag. It just none of that action comes through.
I mean, generally that's invisible. I think that for what you're doing here, it's okay because it's a fanfic. I think like there is an element of playfulness to it.
Let's not cut me too much slack. It gets worse.
I'm trying to say nice things now so that when this gets on the internet,
Then
people
you've
don't
got.
think that I'm an absolute tyrant when I get in. The
There's
editing
evidence
room.
that people are going to want to hire you in the future, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. We goes, okay, so then the Doctor says, "Thank you for all your faith, Rory the Roman, but fear not, Pons, we're going to the land of the deep pan pizza, Chicago." This is future editing David here. Just letting you know that I'm going to cut to just some of the highlights for the rest of this section. If you want to see the whole thing, you can go to patreon.com/DCM.Works, where we'll be posting the full, unedited, unbridled, uncensored version of this interview, where Aron and I read through the entire manuscript. So if you did want to see that, patreon.com/DCM.Works. Otherwise, enjoy these highlights. The Doctor stepped out, sonic screwdriver in hand, and whirled. "Down!" he yelled to the man running at him. The tall man instantly dropped into a roll. The sonic buzzed, the green light of its tip casting into the night. Okay, well that didn't work, the Doctor murmured, slapping the sonic irritably. "Why aren't you working?" "Okay," he began, turning to the tall, coated man who had regained his feet. "We should probably keep running." At that moment, the doors to his TARDIS swung open to reveal Amy and Rory, hand in hand, rushing out.
I don't like the abbreviation of the sonic screwdriver to be Sonic.
In the novels, so I think at the time I was reading a handful of novelizations of Doctor Who and like different aside
And
stories and
were
stuff
they
like that.
stylizing it like that?
Never. They never did that. Ever. It was always the sonic screwdriver. But my brain was like, the sonic, because I'm better than them, I guess.
Like, I get why you would abbreviate it, but it's, I don't know, like, maybe it's just proximity to the most recent film that
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That word has an embargo placed on it inside my head.
Okay, so what are we running from? The doctor yelled to the man as they tore around the corner, the tall man taking the lead. Hard to explain. Monsters. Just run, the stranger replied. Rory grunted his agreement, saving the doctor the trouble, and piled on the speed. Eventually... I know. Piled on the speed.
Quickly!
Quick!
Pile on more speed!
Fly, you fools! Eventually...
Speed reserves. They're diminishing.
We don't have...
Pile on more! With some considerable effort, he blocked out the fatigue, the hunger, and headache, and felt the thaumaturgical link pop in place. With a splash of blood inside the Skittles, he managed to establish a link between the bunch of rampaging Black Court vampires. He was a little bit worried, to say the least. Logistically speaking, creating a thaumaturgical link
Jesus Christ.
between 8 vampires and 8 Skittles would have been shaky blood and hair from each of the vampires and a few hours of preparation. Harry had approximately 30 seconds. No prep time, a headache, a bruised arm, and the vampires bearing down on him. Okay, 27 seconds. Okay, 27 seconds. Alright, don't panic. It's not like this could end badly. Okay, here goes nothing. He withdrew his mum's pen, called up the Hellfire, and bounded the fire in his right hand, pendant, channeling the energy, altering the other. But took a lot more energy than evocation. Oh dear.
Yeah.
God, he was dead. Right. It was a bowtie man wearing the tweed jacket, scooping Harry to his feet. Let's go before those things get back up. Also, while I'm thinking of it, do you know where Mac's pub is?
So this had 7 notes at the time.
That was a wild paragraph.
Yeah.
Because I've never known Doctor Who to like really rub your face in the gritty, gory aspects of dismantling monsters.
Mm-hmm.
That might just be me. I've always found it kind of campy. But like the thought, especially Matt Smith, Amy Pond, and Rory Pond,
with these creatures just like their flesh dissolving in front of them.
fucking bursts into flames.
It's the contrast is a lot, but at the time I didn't think about it.
Polarizing fat in the air,
There are so many ways to have written that would have been tonally consistent. Like, you know, Harry Dresden has so many tools at his disposal that he could deal with vampires with, but I was like, no, let's melt their flesh. Like, it's fucked up.
Incinerate these vampire fucks.
If you scroll down, there's a comment from Frog and Freckles.
Oh, lovely. The first fic I ever wanted to keep. Good lord. The day has finally...
So
that is...
Some people liked it.
Some people really liked it.
Yeah. They were wrong, but they still liked it.
No, it's great.
People really liked it, and I just, like, it, yeah.
I mean, look, it's, this is such a weird combination.
It is, and it gets weirder. Is all I'll say.
It gets weirder. Do you have more of this?
I just sent you the links to part 2 and 3, so if you can pop up part 2, that would be good.
God.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Alright, okay. Hold up. Oh god, there's more. There is more. What is this?
I don't know! Where's this plot going?
What is this story?
Why is it's so Rory-centric? What's happening?
It's Rory-centric. It's
so
Harry-centric.
It's...
The Doctor gets no screen time, except
so
he's kind of
weird.
antagonistic. He feels like a dickhead. Like,
it's so weird.
So weird. It's so strange. It's such a weird crossover. The perspective just like... the perspectives. What?
Mm,
What?
it's kind of a head fuck, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you were thinking at the time.
Neither do I, but that's...
And that's not a bad thing. That's just a like mysteries that will never be solved.
Because it kind of got interesting for a minute with the jar of, like, alien bits, or whatever it was.
Oh, that's some very good description. But like it is interesting. Like the plot of the story is pretty straightforward. But the fact that like Harry chose to rely more on Rory rather than the Doctor.
It's weird.
The weird addition, and that is what compels me to keep reading this.
It's
I'm
I
like,
guess
why? I'm like,
I
why
think,
did you pick him? Like instead of the obvious pairing, you have chosen to put together Dresden and Rory.
so weird.
And you've given like emotional insight into Rory for some reason.
I don't
like
know what was happening. Yeah.
I don't not like it. It's
just weird.
Weird.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think overall? Like, it's not. It's another skeleton in my closet, of which I'm sure there'll be many.
There's absolutely a skeleton in the closet. And you know, like I like certain aspects of it. Certain aspects of it, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can put up with it. I think it needs a good clean. There is some heavy shit like the wizards, the warlock / alien.
Yeah.
That is some seriously hammy, cheap stuff. That just feels like a villain that has been mushed together. Like you've taken 2 B grade villains, but like the most minor minions of these villains, and smush them together into this uber minion that just fulfills the same purpose as a regular ass minion. They could have just been wizards, kind of.
I think like it's a good lesson. This whole process for me, like I've done so much research on Tumblr. The whole process for me has been very enlightening. Like it's revealed to me that these communities are not necessarily the most healthy. Because you post this stuff and you just get constant positive feedback. That's all you get. Like there's no critical lens. There's no sort of no one saying, "Hey, do better." It's just like it's just positive feedback, and it kind of tricks you into thinking that you're doing good work, even though you maybe sometimes aren't.
But it's a weird thing because you're dealing with creating work for a very specific type of audience, and like I think if you would like go in guns blazing with your teeth bared, like attacking people for the art that they create and they share on these websites, you kind of miss the point of like sharing the stories and creating them to begin with. I mean, that's my defense of these environments. I get what you mean.
I'm not attacking them. I just think like it's just revealed this kind of sinister undertone to it all, where it's like I think it cheats a lot of. I think it's part of the process probably, but it cheats a lot of young creatives out of. I think it gives them this idea that like if they keep doing this stuff and they keep writing these fanfics and stuff like that, they're going to become a better writer, and they might. It's possible, but it's not the same thing as like being brave and like it's like. You can't fail because you can't publish this stuff. You can't make money from it.
Yeah,
it's a safe environment.
Like,
it's all of the
extremely safe. You're playing with action figures. Like that's all you're doing is you're taking like pre-established things and making them fight, making them work together. It is interesting seeing what comes out of it, because then you get wild shit like this,
right.
where you know like delving into the inner thoughts of Rory, the Roman, And to me, like toward the end of that, like it felt like you were positioning the Doctor as a villain of some description.
He was at least an antagonist in some ways, yeah.
Yeah, just but very, very softly, like, you know, and you know, like that's the same for most fan fictions that I've read, and I've read very few. Like
He's being
not something that
very
I
defensive,
do
Mr.
regularly.
Oroszvari. Very defensive.
Like most of the time I see it like that way, where you get some weird aspect that people will focus on, and I think that's the value of it. Like it's just like people
Definitely.
working out stuff that they think needed to be worked out, hammered out at the time.
Yeah, 100%. And this is clearly like the thing that I think Moffat was missing, that I'm picking up from this fanfic, is that Rory as a character is not dealt with enough centrally. And and season 7 handles that very neatly. So I think I was picking up on the fact that season 6 didn't do that, and his direct addressal of that was the start of season 7. So I'm clearly picking up on that and then kind of writing into it. So at least at the very least, I'm attuned to the kind of writing mechanisms that are going on with the show, if nothing else. Which is kind of interesting.
But one thing that I will say is that, like, again, even though one thing I will say is that you nailed the voices, right? Well, nailed the voice of the Doctor at the very least, and that's such like an integral part of writing in general, is doing research and paying attention to cadence and delivery and trying to replicate that with writing. So I thought that was interesting, and you said it from the beginning that was kind of your intention.
That was the goal, yeah. I mean, all the feedback I got was like that they were impressed with how on point all the voice was. It was the thing.
Yeah.
They're like, we've never read anything that was this coherently like on voice with these characters from all.
So you read that really sunk in with you, and that's obvious from what you're writing.
Definitely.
But it is a weird beast because there are some things that are so precise, others that are just.
So I think maybe the takeaway here is like, if you're going to write anything, think very carefully about how you're saying, what you're saying, and why you're saying it. It sounds like basic stuff, but everything, like really, like even if it's fan fiction that you can't make money off, like really think about that stuff. Like think about, why is this verb here instead of that verb? Why am I talking about this instead of that? Like really think about that stuff, because it does make a difference.
It's I mean, yeah, again, I agree with you on like a process level, but again, like the environment has an effect on how stories are created as well.
Did you ever write this kind of fan fiction or no?
Me?
Yeah.
I didn't write fan fiction, but I wrote this kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I'm certain I could find it.
That might be a different video.
That is a different video, though.
But I think the difference was I felt the need to publish it. This whole blog, which I'm going to blur out the name of, is you have free access to it. Like it's really, but like there are some things in it that I'm very not proud of, like some misogynistic tendencies, just like some stuff in it that I just don't. It's not who I am now. But I think it's important as a relic of who I was. And that's the whole point of this video, is that you can grow past this stuff. You can move on. But I think the only way to move on is to in retrospect acknowledge that was who you were. And that's really the point of this, is that I was the guy that wrote this. I'm not that person anymore, but I did this at one point. And I think that's pretty important.
Yeah. I mean, it is an interesting piece of work. I'm glad that we got to talk about it, because it's something that I can imagine otherwise would never have seen the light of day again.
That's why we do these videos.
Remained on the internet.
Buried. Yeah, that's why. That's why I like making videos like this, because I think it's important to drag the stuff into the light and put a torch on it and say, "Hey, don't be a shithead." I think that's a lesson here. Cool, man. I'm gonna hit stop. I think that was good. I don't think anyone in these communities had or has malicious intent. But the echo chamber, in-groups, and gatekeeping created toxic, weird environments where everyone participated in the same magic trick. It took a while to learn the hard lesson that it's okay to do things that are not the art you're pursuing, but they can't replace the act of actually doing the art. No matter how many playlists you make for your protagonist, at some point, you do need to sit down and write your novel. And that is a scary thing indeed. Doing the work is tough and hard and fun and challenging, and it's also the thing. So if you want to be a writer, you must write. If you want to make art, you must invariably make something. And whatever you make will have value, and if you do it long enough, you will invariably make good art. Thanks for joining me on this very strange journey, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This video was brought to you by my new novel, Maynard Trigg. Head to maynardtrigg.com and use code BLOG10 for 10% off the paperback. And if you want to see more, you can head to patreon.com/DCM.Works and watch the full 3-part read-through of the fanfiction with me and Aron. It's a good 2 hours, and it's very, very strange. So go check that out, and you'll get access to all kinds of behind the scenes, extra content, and other goodies. That's patreon.com/DCM.Works. And let me know in the comments what you think about fanfiction, what your experience was with Tumblr, your opinion on the whole thing. I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. Share this with one person you think might like it, and we'll see you guys in the next video.